showing disappointment and emotions, speaking up when something upsets you. You can always clarify, there's nothing wrong. Whether it is a mentor or a supervisor or a principal, whoever it is. Admitting you were wrong. You need a big heart for this. When you are wrong, you should admit. Then what is research integrity? Integrity, all of you know, we all come together. Like how I have come into the picture today.
Ma'am, the speaker's connection has got reset, ma'am. Just a minute.
What's the problem?
The speaker connection has got reset, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Sorry for the inconvenience. Ma'am, can you reshare the screen, ma'am?
Yeah, we're doing it. Is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
It's visible?
Ma'am, shall we turn off the camera? So that...
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This was the slide. Yeah, no, previous. Yeah. Madam, is it visible?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. Yeah. So in the research integrity, it is a commitment, sometimes in the face of adversity, to the trustworthiness. So you should have a lot of support from the scientific community. This will flourish when all of us members function together as a body to ensure, and it promotes confidence and trust in the research findings. So it encourages free and exchange of research materials and new ideas. It also upholds the corporate accountability. And here we have to remember, in the research integrity, all of us have come together to function. You should acknowledge and respect the intellectual contributions of others in a greater community. So what are the important points? Since we know the honesty, we know intellectuals, we know the research integrity. What are the most important points which we have to remember? As I have already spoken, honesty is that when we are proposing itself, when we are doing an integrity work, we have to propose it in a proper way. Our performance should be good. Reporting and research should be done systematically. Assignment of credits to all who have participated. Fairness and pre-review. So suppose even when we get a project for assessment or any articles in order to evaluate or then assessing, we should be very fair, not criticizing it. Collegial and scholar interaction and sharing of resources. We should not be like, my research should not go to a locker. It should go to the wide. You have to share. Leave alone the chemicals, leave alone the knowledge, leave alone the paper. Sharing of resources is very, very important. Disclosure of potential conflicts. Suppose if you have any conflicts for any of the proceedings or you have gone through any of the arguments in the research, there is a platform where you can say, I do not agree with this. So you can always disclosure and there will be a platform to express it and we all will be clear with it. Human protection subjects and human care of animal subject. This I will discuss in the later slides. Integrity also characterizes both individual research and institution. As teachers, as professors, as youngsters, I request everybody to see that you may be very intelligent, your IQ may be, you have brought all the sponsors from DBT or international or national, but please remember your institution plays a very important role. When we get for anything for evaluation or valuation, first I see the name of the authors, the title, then I say which institute she represents, which is the college or academic institute they represent. This is very important, but many of them feel that they have got it to the institution. No, it is all give and take. It is the name of the institution which plays a very, very important. We should always feel very fortunate that we are working in such institution. If it is for individuals, it is most important is moral character and your own experience. For institution, they give you the best environment to work. When you say you're a scientist, you are a professor, you are getting so and so proposals you have, because it has to go through proper channel when they sign also. They say, yeah, it's good. You try to get the projects because how many people will be benefited? The university will get a name, the department will get a name. Many of the students will work in that project for their research work. You can also appoint research associates also. So there is so much of activities which will be going on in the institute. And by embracing standards of excellence, trustworthiness, lawfulness, and informed institutional practices. So suppose you want to conduct any conferences, seminar, and invite, the institute gets a very good name out of it. So let us go hand in hand with the individual research or institutions. Research integrity, ethical principles are very, very important. I'm not going through it too much because there's already a next speaker who is going to see a lot about ethical principles. But ethical principles are very, very important. When we were students, it was not so compulsory, but now every issue has an ethical principles, plagiarism and all they play, because you have to follow professional standards for responsible practice of research. Next is, how do we recognize? Many of us will have a doubt. How do we recognize an academic integrity in breach? First of all, we should not start cheating. It comes with the basic thing from the exams or whatever it is. Plagiarism in written work or verbal presentation. Nowadays, plagiarism is playing a very, very important role. We have MSc research, we have PhD research, and in our own universities, we have, before the student submits, they should have plagiarism report. In our university, it goes to 10%, but the margin nowadays is 10 to 20%. So in the plagiarism, they have to get a certificate from the library and then submit it to the director of the PG studies, and then only it will be eligible to move out of the university to go for the evaluation or assessment to the third party. But here in our university, we have really a good way of presenting. Before submitting the thesis or dissertation work, the student, we have a science week for 2 days. So the students, MSc students, put up a poster chart of their work, 1 or 2 objectives, whereas the PhD student, they do the oral presentation for 7 minutes. 3 minutes will be given for question and answering. There we will make the student very thorough with how to present, what are the tables to present, how do you justify your work. So it will be very easy for the students in the future also to update their data and how do they present it and what are the plagiarisms and ethical issues they have followed. And then fabricating data or bibliography information. This is very, very important. You cannot fabricate on your own the bibliography information and all. You have to follow certain standards. Unauthorized collaboration. Let us forget about friendship here. Sometimes just because he is your friend or relative, you want to put a name. That is not at all correct. Because in the university also we have rule. Because there are some siblings working along with you, your own siblings working in the different departments, or it is the spouse, husband and wife working in the different departments. Just because you want a paper, you cannot put their own names when they are not completely involved into the project. Falsifying grades and mispresenting oneself to gain advantage. Just because you want papers, you cannot request others being friendliness to add upon other authorship. These are all not correct. Runa? Next is to conduct a research. There's a one UN Scientific Integrity Plan Core of Instruction is there. I think it is 13 to 14 pages. I think the students can read this in order to apply for any kind of scholarships and any kind relating to the research. Conflict of interest is very important. So when you have a conflict of interest, you have to be very thorough. Please read this document. Ethical use of human and animal subjects in research. Earlier, it was very easy for us. We used to use animal subjects because that is especially in the nutrition we used to use albino rats. But there also the veterinary universities, wherever they are located, you have to go to the animal nutrition department because they have small scale animal lab. So there you have to take prior permission and you have to present to them saying what kind of animals you require. Albino rats of what age, weanling rat after 21 days, whether you require adult rat, what is your experiment, what kind of diet are you giving, and what is the clinical analysis you want to do. So after the feeding trials also they'll ask you, because suppose if they want to do histopathological study, they will not give you all the animals. They have their own pro forma or rules saying their veterinary surgeon will help you whether to test this toxic or not. So these are the animal subjects where you do the research. But many times they said, animal research, why you want to do until it is necessary. Ethical use of human subjects also possible, but still first we go for animal subjects, then human subjects. When we are trying to do human subject, earlier it used to be only in the hospital work, or we used to call them as clinical work, that is drawing of the blood samples. So when you are presenting in the human subjects, any clinical study, you have to approach the hospitals or the institutes and then do the presentation. For this also, every institute now they have made it mandatory that every institute should have an ethical committee. The reason is, suppose you go to a village, you are just doing data collection. Even for that, you need the consent. That is why it is said ethical committee. And in the institute, we have the convener will be there, but the chairman will be from outside. There will be 10 members under this. And we have to follow the rules and regulations of ICMR in order to formulate the human subject ethical committee. And here also it is the board will work for 3 years. And they can get extension for 2 years. That is totally you can go for 5 years. After that, automatically the board will be dissolved and you have to select the next board. Suppose if I want to do in my nutrition or anywhere, the anthropometric measurements, that is we want to take the body measurements, that is the height, that is the weight, that is the waist, then I need permission. Definitely. So the ethical committee will tell me what exactly is the information you require. Suppose if it is vulnerable group, that is the children, you have to take consent from the school teachers as well as the parents and also the children themselves, whether they would like to participate in your research to give the data or they like to fill your questionnaire. So these are very important to know that the ethical issue of human and animal subjects in the research work is very, very important. Authorship and publication. I think Tyagarajan sir has really elaborated here the authorship and publications also, because it is very important. Sometimes when we were all students, when we were very young, those days the digital technology was not there. So what happens if the student is not in contact with the mentor or their guide and she is settled abroad and all that? So sometimes there is to be some misunderstandings saying that when we used to apply to any of the institutes or any conferences, they used to say that the first author only is the presenter. So the next author will not get. So we were forced to put our own names as the first author because she or he would have been somewhere abroad and they cannot come down. But nowadays things are different. You have online presentation. That is how authorship of first author, second author, there used to be a confusion. Sometimes students never used to feel happy because they have done the work and they would like to be the first author. But I think in a fair way, everywhere we should give students the first authorship because they have done a lot of work into that and they reported to you. So there should be a very good understanding between the teacher and the student when you give the authorship. If it is a project, there also it is very important. In any of the projects, if there are 8 to 10 departments which are involved, there will be a coordinator. After the coordinator, who are all the specialists, they will be called as PI, that is principal investigators. Down to it, they are called as co-PIs, that is co-investigators. Later on, you have the research associate. So you should all have the understanding in publication of the papers. Everybody has every right to get a, for whatever the work has done, it should be fair enough. Data acquisition, management, ownership, and sharing. See, this data acquisition, owner sharing, all of us should sit and talk together and say, without the knowledge of coordinator, you cannot pass on the data. Suppose when you are doing international projects, so you say that you have the same partner in Germany or some other place, and he or she writes to you saying, I need this data, can you pass it on to me? You cannot pass it on directly to him. You have to have the permission from the coordinator because he is coordinating your project, saying, sir or madam, can I share this belong because they need this information. Only when they give a green signal, you have to take. Otherwise, please do not pass on the data ownership thing because you have a lot of things to be shared within the institute. Peer review. Review is very, very important. As such, we said, reviewing a paper or a simple journal or any popular article. It is very, because I will, in the other slides, I'll give you a few examples where the students will be more interested. Mentoring and mentee relationship. It is very nice. We should always have a good relationship because it is nothing to do personal. It is only the activity of the research misconduct. This has to be spoken within the four walls and then cleared out. Collaborative research, including, this is very, very important nowadays. Industries have come forward. So like the Vaidehi madam had asked a very interesting question where saying they want the product development to be given because the committee, the NAW committee also says, what is your transfer of technology which you have given? What is the commercialization you have done? How many patents have you done? But with food industry, you can do commercialization your product because they do it very fast. But of course, the retention and sustainability, we cannot be because it is the novel products, the new products which are competing. So we have to compete with the marketing trends. Then the scientist is responsible. Of course, finally, we are responsible in society because we should set an example as a teacher, as a professor, as a faculty. I should set an example so that the students also will take over and the research associates also tomorrow when they come to your positions, they will also know how exactly to conduct the research work by following all these core of instructions. Then 8 ways to determine in the right way. First of all, when you write a report after doing the complete research, you should say, why was the study undertaken? Because in the proposals itself, you should be very clear. For what? What is the rationale for you to take up the research? Who conducted the study? Are there any of the studies which have been already done or you want to do something different? If you're doing something different, give the justification. Who funded the project? Many times the students forget this. When they work in these projects and submit their thesis, it is not their fault. They will not acknowledge who funded the research. You have to write in the acknowledgement. As a mentor, you should tell the student, please see to it that you acknowledge the whoever has funded. How was the data collected? Methodology plays a very important role. No research paper or the thesis can be understood without reading a methodology. You have to have stepwise, neatly written. What is your sample size? How have you distributed? Where you are collecting? How are you going toward? For this, you need some help from the statistician because we have different types of random sampling, collective sampling, purposive sampling. So there are enormous ways. So you should sit with a statistician first with the whole team and then say, what is your sample size? The response rate of sufficient, and then secondary data. You also have to acknowledge from where you have taken the secondary data because the research we take by questionnaire method or any, but what is their secondary data? For example, if I have gone to a school and I collect or Anganwadi center or anywhere vulnerable groups, I collect the data. But the secondary data, suppose I want to know the health status of the child or the health status of the women, I need the secondary data. Because what were their health status? By the PHC. So they have the primary health centers where they give you the data. Suppose we go through agriculture, what was the production? What was the yield? What was the sale? What was the cost for the last 2 years or last 5 years? I need the secondary data from the Jilla Panchayat or agriculture departments which are located, and you have to acknowledge them. This gives a lot of weightage for the secondary data. So depending on the problem of your research, the secondary data plays a very important role. And the next secondary data, you can write a lot of review papers by comparing your data for the last 5 years with different standards. So I have followed Indian standard, globally Asian standards, Europe standards, US standards, WHO standards. These are all called as the secondary data which they have done for the last 1 decade or 5 years. Then does the research measure what it claims to measure? That is, yeah, definitely you have to see that. That is why you write your aim and objective and hypothesis. Finally, you have to come to a conclusion. What is the claims you have made and is it measured? There are 7 principles in the ethical research, which I'll just go through it. I'm not going to go detailed. Social and clinical value, which are very, very important. Scientific validity. Validity is very important in your research. Until you have the validation, it is very difficult. Fair subject collection. Please don't collect the data from your neighbors or your friends or from your hostel mates. That is wrong. You have to have the fair collection of subject. Please follow the methodology. Favorable risk-benefit ratio. Yeah, the risk should be very less. Independent review, you can always do, but still, it's always nice to go with a team or to go with a mentor. Informed consent. See, once you inform the consent, you have to keep that person. I mean, you should not disclose the person's name and from the place because he has given or he or she has given you the proper data. Please don't disclose them. Respect for potential and enrolled subject. We have to respect them. So you cannot say, so-and-so patient came, so she is suffering like this. I went to this school, she did not know, no disclosure. That is called as the consent. Please give respect to the subjects. So causes for the plagiarism, peer acceptance. What are the causes? Because your friend or anything, she has accepted it. No, it's wrong. Then availability and ease of internet source. See, just because we have digitalized and we have internet, and within a fraction of 10 minutes or within a fraction of few seconds, I can reach and then get the data. And then they say, oh, I have done my research. No, that is wrong. Lack of understanding of academic integrity. See, very important is you must have done in the initial stages independent, but afterwards, when you're doing in an integrity form of different scholars or different scientists coming together or different institutions which are involved in your research project, you have to have the codes. Code of conduct is very important here. Lack of detection. Why do we lack detection? Sometimes it happens. Very, very common it is. We think whatever we have done is the best, but there should be, you have to have a lack of, here the detection is very important. Product orientation assignments and examination. So sometimes, you know, the examination and assignments, when you do it, you have to quote from where you have collected and be specific with it. High stakes assignment, it is the same. Pressure to succeed and achieve. Overnight achievement is not that. These are all called as short intervention. You have to have long intervention thinking just because you want to achieve certain things. So just putting your name everywhere is not the goal of a research. So these are the examples of the intellectual traits. You should have integrity. You should have humility, confidence in reason, perseverance, fair-mindedness, courage, empathy, autonomy. These are all very important. So the next slide, I would like to give some example. I have taken, for example, when we send a research project or research proposal or a journal, a paper, there will be many questions asked by that. You please don't get offended because only when you read it, you will know why they have asked you those questions. Sometimes you get offended. I have done this and why this is. So I have taken examples for the whole, for everybody to understand on health. There was one article which I read. It is out of my own interest. I thought it will be thing. So I don't want to mention who are the authors. I also don't want to mention which journal it is. So in the following subsections, what we found was a reviewed recent examples of the publication. Here, they had said that they have done a clinical trials on vitamin and mineral supplements. It was a long intervention study. So what clinicians need to know in this is the whole thing of their research, they brought it into only 2 pages. So the authors, what in the 2 pages, the reviewers had to read it and they asked a very relevant questions, which are very interesting. They asked, the first question they asked was, the authors said everywhere in the vitamin supplements, folic acid. When we say folic acid, all of us know that nowadays a lot of research is conducted under folic acid. Whether it is folic acid or forms. Another one is folinic acid, which is also called as leucovorin. And there is another format which is called as methyl format. So when we are doing this, the methyl formats are more beneficial when compared to that of the folic acid. So the first question they had put to the authors are, which is the one have you used? The second question, likewise, vitamin B12. All of us know vitamin B12 is very important. It has different forms. cyanocobalamin, which is used in the fortified foods as well as for many of the supplements. It also has hydroxycobalamin. It also has anonylcobalamin, methylcobalamin. Which are the forms which you have used in your study? Because hydroxycobalamin is more beneficial and it is used for macrocytic anemia. When we talk about methylcobalamin along with adenosine, it acts together and the retention in the body is more. So the author had not said which form of B12 he has used. You have to be very specific in your paper. This was the second question which was asked by the reviewer. The third one is vitamin D. That's a supplement. Because vitamin D has, these are calciferols. Two types. One is called as D2, another one is called D3. The D2 is ergocalciferol. The D3 is cholecalciferol. When you both function together for absorption of calcium and phosphorus and also the bones. But we have to remember, ergocalciferol comes from the plant foods, cholecalciferol comes from the dietary sources as animal foods. So when you're dealing with both of them, the cholecalciferol is more effective when compared to that of the ergocalciferol. So you have to know which form the research author has used in his clinical trials. And also there's one important factor which we all have to remember according to the study. The vitamin D, they have to have attention with magnesium intakes, vitamin A and also K2. Because vitamin A also, apart from its main function of vision, it also helps in the bone health. Vitamin K2, apart its main function in the clotting of blood, it also helps in the bone growth. So you have the health of the bone. And also the magnesium also, it plays a very important role. So it makes the active form. So in the physiological conditions, there will be a lot of questions for this thing. And next question they posed was vitamin K. When you say, yeah, my supplement had vitamin K and I did the studies, which form? There is K1, there is K2, there is K3, there is K7. K1, K2, K3 are all the cofactors. Whereas the K7, apart from clotting, it helps in the osteoporosis in the low doses. In the similar way here also I told you, ergocalciferol and cholecalciferol, they combine together and they help in the rickets. So when you are talking so much of research and publications, you have to be very careful to tell how did you conduct and what are the forms you have used in your research. Then as a final example also, sometimes they say calcium supplement may increase the stone. So, but you have to be very justifying, saying that you get some modifications in the diet also. When you have such kind of the errors in the research work, the reviewer will definitely question. He is a fair reviewer. So we have to say that when you conduct a research, please sit, read the document and try to understand what are all the questions it will come from the reviewer. You cannot say the reviewer asked too many questions. No, they are all applicable. That too, when it is dealing with the health, you should be very clear in your research proposals and the reports. The second example I want to give is this, all of us know olive oil. Every one of us nowadays are very crazy because olive oil is very good for health. And this was one of the research paper where they want to say the effective, or that is omega fatty acids, because the olive oil with that of the cardiovascular, that is a heart disease. The main thing here, the shortcoming, the first reviewer asked the question, why did you, because you are taking two oils, one is fish oil, another one is olive oil, and the placebo is olive oil. Then the reviewer said, why should you take placebo as olive oil? Because already for the past 15 to 20 years, a lot of research has already been put up saying that the Mediterranean diets who consume olive oil, they have very low rates of coronary heart diseases and certain types of cancer, and they have a long life expectancy. So when this research was conducted for the past 20 years, then again, why you want to take? Because both the compounds are very strong. Both the compounds are very strong and effective, but you have to conduct a research, not for the sake of research. You have to give away to lot of novel products should come. Health aspects should be taken care properly, not for just research publications. So these two, I thought, will have more interest with the students. Then why? Usually we should always think my research work is flawless. But why the research gets flawed? First thing is ignorance. Sometimes we don't do it intentionally. Even our students don't do it intentionally. Even our RAs don't do it intentionally. It is just an ignorance. Second, medical or financial, political, whatever it is, research for profit. So sometimes you know what the result is, but you give it some other result in an abstract form. That is not correct. Pay to play research. This is also wrong. The authors were independent scientists, but the online documents were rewarded by companies. Sometimes many of the author, like Research Journal of Engineering or anybody, they say, ma'am, would you like to be in our committee? No, we say no, because we have no role to play there. Just because you want to be the reviewer, you will not review an article properly. You just say, yes, it has been evaluated, and you print out. There are so many millions and millions of people who read your research paper. And such information, if it is controversial, it is not correct. So in the online documents, when somebody invites you to review their, to inviting you for the board, you have to be careful. Maybe your own field or adjacent to your own other fields, related fields, you can be the peer reviewer. Otherwise, the documents or the journals will not have the good effectiveness and the impact factors. Hidden data. The study here, the placebo, sometimes they hide the data. The main points are not given. The study observed the identified of the placebo. They only say, we studied between these two oils, but you must have forgotten or you must have hidden. What was the placebo which you have used? So sometimes you try to hide the data, which is very wrong. In general, what are the common problems all of us face in publishing of the abstract? This also sir had mentioned. I'm just adding some points to the sir's note here. The readings of any study begins with readings of the title and abstract of the article. First, as soon as you open the laptop or you open the researcher, what you see? You just see it is very common with everybody. First, we see the title and then we see the abstract. So sometimes people are very, very busy professionals. So they have no time in reading the complete research article. So they just think, okay, this data is giving the whole thing. But you have to be very careful. The data sometimes do not project the whole of your research. Abstract only. This is very problem for our students. We say that, I also tell many students, what is this? You have just written abstract, get me the full paper. Then they will say, ma'am, it is on payment basis. Correct. So where do you pay? You can't afford the student to pay. Even we can't afford. So what do you do there? So here reading is usually due to time limitations. But many major journals require a fee to access the full study, while the abstract is available for free, either at the publisher website or with your old database. So this we should understand, the students or our research associate. Another thing, that authors are not only the ones with conflict of interest, but authors commonly pay journals. Here, madam has said, sometimes the impact factor is very high, but the payment is too much. You're tempted to go your paper to put in there, but how do you pay the money? So these are the things which we all should sit and talk. I think we have to take both positive and negative, sit together and put up this, and this itself will be one conference or a seminar can take place here. Then the potential for conflict of interest is obvious and substantial. Editors of such journals have incentive to accept articles. Sometimes you have to remember your article would have been rejected by one journal. So you just go for online, or this editors by payment basis. That is not fair. Where it is already been rejected, you are bringing it back. That is why sometimes they say, have you submitted this paper some other place? Has it been published? So you have to be very clear to fill the pro forma. And they also nowadays ask in the journal, please get us the plagiarism score, whether it is within 10% or not, because the several studies have documented a predatory behavior of editors to recruit fees and falsified credential in editorial board members, and there's no rigor in their review process. Just they see and say, yes, it has been accepted. No, you cannot send to such journals. Please do not encourage your students, and students, please do not send to such journals. But at the same time, I'm telling you, all open access journals are not problem. So let us not say all are of the same mode. There are few journals which the mentor and the thing we have to identify and then give. So recently we have written one book on food laws and regulations and food safety. So I have involved the 14 authors, it is compilation. That time also the author, we had several meetings with all the 14 authors along with the publication thing. He had told us what it is and we had formulated the performa saying how should the book be written, each chapter. First it should have the title, then the name. After the name, your designation and your email. After that, you have to have an abstract. Abstract should always be in italics. Then your keywords. Then it is the introduction. Then the review. When you write the review, it is not like you keep on writing the whole thing and at the end you give the references. Oh, that concept has gone. You have to follow the standards. Wherever you have taken the thing, you have to write the scientist's name, and once you click, automatically whatever the findings he has done, it will come. So any figures or any of the diagrams or any of the tables you have taken, you have to take permission. So we all think, how do I go about with permission? No, you can always take their email ID and say, I'm going to present this into the book or anything. Without, these are called as conflicts. You will never get conflicts when the book is released. So these are the things. First, initially 3 to 4 meetings you should have through Google, and then come out with a performer so that everybody is happy with the integrity. This is called as research integrity or the paperwork integrity or the book integrity. So I just took a nutrition example here. In 2017 and 12, when with the scientific principles of scientific integrity is, we had to mention targeted audience, which is the research you are conducting, which is the field, whether it is food science and nutrition or some other field. What are the issues you are going to cover under it? So we used to write conflicts of interest, scientific integrity, conduct of research. This was going on till 2012. From the 2012 to 15, new performers had come. So again, what are the targeted audience? Field, you can always say safety, nutrition, and health. Then what are the issues covered? Then we had public-private partnership. So this was, wide, we could collaborate with many others. From 2015 onwards, a new performer has come. Again, it is, you can target with research, policy, practice, and field. Any field you can, because it is integrated research. You can go collaborate with any field, and issues covered is scientific integrity. So this is how it has come, and we should utilize this and come forward and put a lot of proposals so that our institute and the students get benefited. So these are some of the references which I have covered. And then thank you for any of the research integrity. As intellectuals, we should have honesty and integrity. So which has been said very well by Abraham Lincoln. I'm not bound to be true. I'm not bound to succeed, but I'm bound to live by the light that I have. I must stand with anyone who stands right. Stand with him while he's right and part with him when he goes wrong. So you should have, nowadays the research plays a very important role irrespective of science or arts or medicine or technology. When we propose this kind of proposals, we should see that the research goes on very systematically so that the reviewer or the sponsors, whoever has recognized, he or she should be ready to sponsor your next proposal. So with this, I thank the organizers. Especially, I have a lot of close feelings for Mother Teresa University. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunities to share my views on the intellectual honesty and research integrity. Thank you.
Thank you so much, ma'am. Any questions from the participants? If there is no questions, then let me thank Professor Lakshmi. You have enlightened us with the intellectual honesty and the important points in research integrity and the integrity between scholars and guides and integrity between individuals and institution and principles of ethical research. Thank you, ma'am, for accepting our invitation regarding this. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you, ma'am.
Due to some important work, unfortunately, Professor V. Gopakumar sir couldn't join us today. So let us break for lunch and please be joined at 2 o'clock.
I couldn't go on. Go automatically.